My coworker is upset I'm treating her differently after she accused me of inappropriate behavior while I was saving her life. I've worked at this marketing firm for 4 years. Small office, maybe 20 people total. I'm the quiet guy who brings donuts on Fridays and always volunteers to help with office events. I genuinely liked my coworkers and treated them like friends. Juliet started 2 years ago. We got along fine. Nothing special, just normal coworker stuff. She'd join our lunch group. We'd chat about Netflix shows, typical office friendship. 2 months ago, we were all eating in the break room. Juliet was telling some story about her weekend, laughing, when suddenly she stopped mid-sentence. Her hands went to her throat. Her face turned red, then purple. Everyone froze. I didn't think. I just moved. I got behind her and started the Heimlich. 4 thrusts and a chunk of chicken wing flew out. She gasped, started breathing again. The whole room erupted in cheers. I asked if she was okay. She just nodded, wouldn't look at me, and walked straight to the bathroom. I figured she was embarrassed. Choking in front of everyone is mortifying. The next day, she called in sick. The day after that, she was back, but avoided me completely. Wouldn't make eye contact. Took a different route to her desk. I thought maybe she was still embarrassed, so I gave her space. Day 3, I got an email from HR. Please come to conference room B at 2 p.m. No context, no explanation. I walked in and saw Denise from HR and the office manager looking serious. They asked me to sit down. Denise slid a paper across the table and said Juliet filed a formal complaint against me. My stomach dropped. A complaint for what? Denise read it out loud. Juliet alleged that during the Heimlich, my hands were positioned inappropriately, that I pressed my body too close to hers, and that she felt my lower body against her back. She said it felt deliberate and made her extremely uncomfortable. I couldn't breathe. I asked if this was a joke. It wasn't. I explained exactly what happened. Textbook Heimlich maneuver, exactly how I was taught in the CPR class the company made us take last year. There were 8 witnesses. Everyone saw me save her life. Didn't matter. Company policy. Accusation filed. Investigation required. I was put on immediate paid leave pending the outcome. I drove home in shock. I called my girlfriend crying, saying I was about to lose my job for saving someone's life. She was furious. Said to get a lawyer. I couldn't afford one. For 6 days, I sat at home checking my email every hour, wondering if my career was over, wondering if this would follow me forever. I barely slept. Day 7, Denise called. Investigation concluded. Security footage reviewed. All 8 witnesses interviewed. I was completely cleared. No wrongdoing. I could return to work Monday. I should have felt relieved. Instead, I felt sick. Monday morning, I walked in and went straight to my desk. Juliet was already there. She came over during lunch and asked to talk privately. We went to the parking lot. She apologized, said she panicked, that she has PTSD from past trauma and being touched triggered her. She said she knows I saved her life and she's sorry for putting me through that. I told her I accepted her apology, but everything was different now. I stopped joining the lunch group when she was there, stopped going to happy hours if she was coming. If we passed in the hallway, I'd nod and keep walking. In meetings, I sat on the opposite side of the table. She noticed. After 2 weeks, she approached me in the break room and said she could tell I was being weird. I said I was just being professional now. She said I was punishing her for something she apologized for, that I was making her feel isolated and unwelcome. I told her this wasn't personal. It was survival. She stared past me. You know what's weird? The more I try to remember that day, the fuzzier it gets. Over the next week, her story shifted. Details appeared that never existed. Yesterday, she cornered me in the break room. I remember now. You were standing really close before I started choking. Her voice was certain. 2 other coworkers were listening. I saw them glance at each other. This morning, Denise called me back to her office, and Juliet was already sitting there with that same confused, genuine look on her face. Denise had papers in front of her, not the old complaint, new ones. She slid them across the table toward me without saying anything. I picked them up and started reading. Juliet's new statement was typed out, formatted like some kind of legal document. It claimed I'd been standing close to her before she started choking, that I'd positioned myself behind her beforehand, that the Heimlich wasn't a spontaneous rescue but something I'd set up. The whole thing was reframed. I wasn't the guy who saved her life anymore. I was a predator who'd engineered the situation to assault her. This changes the context, Denise said. Her voice was flat, professional. We need to reopen the investigation with this new information. I looked at Juliet. She was staring at her hands, picking at her cuticle. She looked small, vulnerable, exactly how you'd want to look if you were accusing someone. New information? I said. This is a completely different story. I was sitting at the table. She was standing by the microwave. I wasn't anywhere near her until she started choking. That's not how I remember it, Juliet said quietly. 8 people saw what happened. Memory is complicated, Denise said. Trauma can obscure initial perceptions. Sometimes clarity comes later. I just stared at her. This was actually happening again. We'll be conducting interviews, Denise continued. You're not on leave this time, but we ask that you minimize contact with Juliet during the process. The way she said it made it sound reasonable, like they were being fair. But I could read between the lines. I was the problem now, Not the guy who saved someone, the guy they needed to manage. I walked out of that office feeling like the floor had disappeared, like I'd stepped into some alternate reality where saving someone's life was the worst thing you could do. That afternoon, I sat at my desk trying to work, but I couldn't focus. I kept replaying the break room scene in my head. I was sitting at the table with Kevin and Matt. Juliet was standing by the microwave, waiting for her food to heat up. She was mid-sentence, laughing about something her sister did, and then she just stopped. The laugh died in her throat. Literally. I was at least 6 feet away when it happened. I had to push my chair back, stand up, and walk over to her. There were people between us. Matt had to move out of the way so I could get to her. There was no standing close beforehand. There was no positioning. It was a room full of people eating lunch and someone started choking. But somehow, in Juliet's mind, I was already behind her, already too close, already planning something. The next day, I watched it happen in real time. Juliet had coffee with Kevin from analytics in the morning. I saw them through the glass wall of the conference room, her leaning in, him nodding seriously. She was talking with her hands, her face serious, and Kevin's expression kept shifting from concerned to thoughtful to sympathetic. That afternoon, Kevin gave his second statement to HR. I didn't know what he said, but I could guess. I'd worked with Kevin for 3 years. We played on the company softball team together. He was a good guy, easy to talk to, easy to convince. 2 days later, she had lunch with Amy and Jordan. I didn't see where they went, but I saw them come back together. Amy's hand on Juliet's shoulder, Jordan carrying Juliet's bag for her like she was fragile. They walked past my desk and didn't look at me. The next morning, Amy and Jordan gave their revised statements. By the end of the week, 3 of the original 8 witnesses had changed their stories. Not completely, just enough. They couldn't be certain where my hands were during the Heimlich. Maybe I was standing closer than they initially thought before she started choking. It happened so fast, they might have missed something. Actually, thinking about it now, they weren't sure about the exact sequence of events. I went to Denise with this. She's coaching them. She's meeting with witnesses privately and changing their testimony. Denise looked up from her computer. People are allowed to have coffee. She's manipulating the investigation. Or she's leaning on coworkers for support during a difficult time. Denise closed the folder in front of her. I'd be careful about making accusations you can't prove. There it was, the warning. The subtle shift from HR being neutral to HR protecting the company from me. I can prove I didn't do anything wrong, I said. You were already cleared. So why are we doing this again? Denise folded her hands on her desk. Because new information came to light. We have an obligation to investigate. New information or a new story. Her expression didn't change. Is there anything else? I left her office and went straight to my desk. I pulled up my email and scrolled back to the week of the incident. I'd sent a message to IT on Thursday, 2 days after it happened, asking them to check the break room camera footage because someone had taken my lunch from the fridge and I wanted to see who did it. It was a joke email, not serious, but it proved I knew the camera was there. That's when I remembered the security footage. The break room camera would show everything. Where I was sitting, where she was standing, the whole sequence from start to finish. It would show me pushing my chair back, standing up, walking over. It would prove there was distance between us. It would prove I wasn't hovering behind her. I went back to Denise. The security footage from the break room. It would show exactly what happened. She didn't even look up. The system auto-deletes after 30 days. The footage is gone. Of course it was. I stood there for a second, processing. The first investigation took 10 days. The footage would have still existed during the entire investigation. Did anyone preserve it? We didn't need to. You were cleared. All witnesses confirmed your account. And now those witnesses are changing their stories and there's no footage to contradict them. Denise finally looked at me. What exactly are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that it's convenient. That's all. I think you should get back to work, Denise said. I went home that night and pulled up the investigation timeline on my laptop. The incident happened on a Tuesday. Juliet filed the complaint on Friday. The investigation wrapped up the following Friday. That's 10 days total. The security footage auto-deletes after 30 days. So the footage existed for 20 more days after I was cleared, and nobody thought to preserve it. Why would they? I was cleared. Case closed. Except now, it wasn't closed. Now Juliet had revised her story, and the only objective evidence was gone. All that existed were witness statements, and she was systematically destroying those. My phone rang. My manager, Phil. He wanted to see me first thing in the morning. I barely slept that night. I knew what was coming. I walked into Phil's office at 8:30 and he closed the door behind me. There was a folder on his desk, thin, maybe 10 pages. He pushed it toward me. What is this? I asked, even though I already knew. A severance package, 3-month salary, full benefits through the end of the year. You resign quietly, sign an NDA, and this whole thing goes away. I opened the folder. The papers were already prepared, professionally formatted, signature lines highlighted in yellow, my name already typed in. I didn't do anything wrong, I said. I know. Phil's voice was softer than I expected. I was there. I saw what happened. You saved her life. So why are you handing me this? He leaned back in his chair and rubbed his face. He looked tired, older than I remembered. Because this isn't about what's true. It's about what the company can afford to deal with. We've got a woman saying she feels unsafe. We've got a workplace investigation. We've got witnesses changing their stories. Even if we clear you again, the optics are terrible. So you're firing me for saving someone's life. We're not firing you. We're offering you an exit that protects your reputation. You leave on your terms, we give you a strong reference, and you move on with your career. By making me sign a paper that says I can't talk about what happened, that makes me look guilty. Phil leaned forward. The alternative is we continue the investigation. It drags out for weeks, maybe months. HR interviews everyone multiple times. The story gets bigger. People take sides. The office becomes toxic. And at the end of it, even if you're cleared again, you're the guy who got accused twice. That label sticks. You think another company wants to hire someone with 2 HR complaints on their record, even if both were dismissed? So I lose either way. I'm trying to help you here, Phil said. His voice had an edge now. Impatience. I looked at the folder. 3-month salary. That would buy me time to find something else. I could leave, put this behind me, start over somewhere that didn't know this story. But then I thought about Juliet sitting in HR, describing details that never happened, convincing people that my rescue was actually an assault. I thought about Kevin and Amy and Jordan revising their memories to fit her narrative. I thought about the next guy Juliet worked with, the next person who'd try to help her, and what she might do to them. No, I said. I want a formal review. I want this on record. Phil's expression changed. The sympathy drained out. His jaw tightened. His eyes went cold. We're trying to help you here, he said again. But it sounded different this time. Not like advice, like a threat. I didn't ask for help. I asked for fairness. Fairness? Phil laughed, but there was no humor in it. You want fairness? Okay, we continue the investigation. We interview everyone again. We document every interaction you've ever had with Juliet. We go through your emails, your messages, your performance reviews. We look for patterns, and maybe we find something. Maybe we find an email where you complimented her shirt. Maybe we find a Slack message where you used an emoji that could be interpreted as flirty. Maybe we find absolutely nothing, but the process takes 6 months, and by the time it's over, you're so radioactive no one in this industry will touch you. I stared at him. Is that a threat? It's reality. Take the severance. Sign the NDA, move on. I left the folder on his desk and walked out. My girlfriend asked me that night if I was insane. They're giving you 3 months' salary to leave. Most people would kill for that. Most people didn't save someone's life and get accused of assault for it. I know, babe, but this isn't about what's fair. This is about survival. You take the money, you get out, you find something better. And then what? She does this to someone else? She's rewriting what happened. She's turning a rescue into an attack. If I leave, if I sign that NDA, her version becomes the truth. Her version is already becoming the truth. Your coworkers are changing their stories. HR is reopening the investigation. You're losing. Take the exit while you still can. But I couldn't. I don't know if it was pride or stupidity or just the principle of it, but I couldn't let her win by default. The next day, I went through my phone. I don't post much on Instagram. I usually just scroll through and like stuff. But I remembered there was a group lunch that Thursday, 2 days after the incident. Someone had taken photos. Amy, maybe. Or Jordan. I found them. 5 pictures from that day. There's one of the whole group crowded around a table at this Thai place we always went to. And there, right in the middle, is Juliet with her arm around my shoulders, both of us smiling at the camera. She's holding up her drink, laughing. She looks happy, comfortable, relaxed, not afraid. There's another photo from the same lunch. Juliet and I are at the end of the table, and she's leaning against me while someone tells a story. Casual, friendly. Exactly how coworkers act when one of them didn't assault the other 2 days earlier. I screenshot both photos and spent an hour writing the perfect email to Denise. Professional, factual, no emotion. Subject line: evidence of Juliet's comfort level 48 hours post-incident. I attached the screenshots and sent it at midnight. Denise called me at 10 the next morning. Can you come in? I walked into her office 15 minutes later. Juliet was already there, sitting in the same chair she'd sat in before. The photos were printed out on Denise's desk. I received your email, Denise said, sliding the printouts toward Juliet. Can you explain these? Juliet picked up the first photo, stared at it. Her eyes got wet. Tears started forming, and I watched her transform in real time from the professional young woman who sat down 3 minutes ago into someone fragile and wounded. My therapist told me this would happen, she said. Her voice was shaking. She said trauma victims perform normalcy while they're in shock. It's a survival mechanism. You smile, you laugh, you act like everything's fine because the alternative is falling apart in public. I didn't even realize I was doing it. I was just trying to get through the day without everyone seeing how broken I felt inside. She looked up at me, tears running down her face now. And now you're using my trauma response against me. You're weaponizing the way I survived what you did. I opened my mouth to respond, but Denise cut me off. Juliet, I need you to understand that we're just trying to establish facts here. The fact is, he assaulted me, Juliet said. Her voice cracked. And 2 days later, I was so messed up I put my arm around him and smiled for a camera because I didn't know how else to act. Do you know how that makes me feel? Looking at this photo, seeing myself touch the person who violated me, it makes me sick. Denise slid the photos back across her desk toward me. Thank you for providing these, but they don't contradict Juliet's account. In fact, they support what she's saying about her psychological state during that time period. I looked at Denise, then at Juliet, then back at Denise. You're not serious. Trauma responses are complex, Denise said. These photos don't prove she wasn't traumatized. They potentially prove she was. I just stood there. I'd brought evidence that Juliet was comfortable around me, and somehow that evidence now proved I'd traumatized her. Is there anything else? Denise asked. I walked out. The office turned completely after that. It was like someone had flipped a switch. People who used to say good morning started looking at their phones when I walked by. Conversations stopped when I entered a room. I'd go to the break room to get coffee and find it mysteriously empty 30 seconds after I arrived. I heard Matt from design talking to someone in the hallway outside the bathrooms. I was inside the men's room, so they didn't know I could hear them. I always thought there was something off about him, you know? Matt said. Like too helpful, too nice. Like he was performing being a good guy, right? The other voice was Jordan. It's always the ones who try too hard. I'd worked with Matt for 3 years. We'd gone to a Dodgers game together last summer. Split nachos and argued about whether the team should trade for pitching. He'd asked me to help him move furniture when he got a new apartment. I'd spent a Saturday carrying his couch up 3 flights of stairs. And now I was the guy who tried too hard to be nice. The guy who was performing. The predator hiding in plain sight. Someone moved their desk. Jordan, who used to sit 2 desks away from me, requested a workspace change. Facilities moved her to the other side of the floor on a Friday afternoon. When I came in Monday, her desk was empty except for a few dust marks where her monitor used to be. I saw her later that day in the kitchen. Asked her directly, "Did you really need to move desks?" She wouldn't look at me. I just needed a change of scenery. Jordan, we've worked next to each other for 2 years, and now I work somewhere else. Is that okay with you? The way she said it. Like I was controlling. Like I was entitled to her proximity. The lunch group I'd been part of for 4 years stopped inviting me. They still met every day at 12:30. I could see them through the glass walls of the conference room, laughing, eating takeout, acting like they'd always been a group of 7 instead of 8. The chair I used to sit in just stayed empty. I tried joining them once. Walked in like nothing had changed. Sat down in my usual spot. The conversation died. Everyone looked at their food. Amy stood up. I actually need to make a call. Excuse me. Then Kevin. Yeah, I should probably get back to that spreadsheet. One by one, they left. Within 3 minutes, it was just me and Matt sitting there in silence. You're really going to do this? I asked him. Matt packed up his lunch. I don't know what you want me to say, man. How about the truth? You were there. You saw what happened. I saw you behind her with your hands on her body. That's what I saw. I was saving her life. And she says it felt like something else. Who am I to tell her how to feel about her own body? He left. I sat there alone in the conference room with my sandwich, staring at 7 empty chairs, and I realized I was being erased. Not fired, not forced out, just slowly deleted from the social fabric of the office until I didn't exist anymore. I was a ghost, haunting my own workplace. Friday afternoon, I had to give a presentation on the campaign I'd been leading for 2 months. Big client, huge budget. I'd been working on this pitch since November, putting together this whole strategy for shifting their social media presence to focus on user-generated content and authenticity. I was halfway through the presentation when I noticed Juliet crying. Not loud, not dramatic, just tears rolling down her face. She wasn't looking at me. She was staring at her laptop screen like she was trying to focus on work, but her shoulders were shaking slightly. Everyone noticed. You couldn't not notice. The room's attention split. Half the people watching me present, half watching Juliet fall apart. I kept talking, clicking through slides, but my voice sounded hollow, mechanical. Juliet? Phil said from the back of the room. Are you okay? She shook her head, wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I'm sorry, she whispered. I just don't feel safe right now. The room went completely silent. 12 people staring at me, like I was doing something to her just by standing there, just by existing in the same space. Something inside me snapped. Safe? I said. My voice came out louder than I intended. You don't feel safe? I saved your life. Please don't yell at me, Juliet said. Her voice was small, scared. I'm not yelling, but I was. I could hear it. My voice was raised, sharp, echoing in the conference room. You were dying and I helped you, and now you're sitting here crying like I'm some kind of threat. This is exactly what I'm talking about, Juliet said to Phil, not to me. This hostility, this aggression. Hostility. Are you kidding me? You filed a false complaint. You've been lying to HR, coaching witnesses, making up details that never happened. That's enough. Phil stood up. His face was red. Everyone take 5. Meeting's over. People filed out. Nobody looked at me. Juliet left first, Amy's arm around her shoulders, guiding her out like she was a victim being led away from her attacker. I stood there in the empty conference room, my presentation still frozen on the screen behind me, and I knew I'd just made everything worse. The email came Monday morning. Official HR letterhead, Denise's signature at the bottom. I was being issued a final written warning for creating a hostile work environment and demonstrating aggressive behavior toward a coworker. One more incident of any kind and I'd be terminated immediately. Additionally, I was prohibited from initiating any contact with Juliet whatsoever. If we needed to communicate for work purposes, it had to go through a manager or be conducted via email with HR copied. I read the email 3 times. I'd defended myself in front of witnesses and now it was in my permanent file as harassment. Raising my voice was aggression. Calling her a liar was hostility. Saving her life was the original sin that started all of this. And now everything I did to prove my innocence just made me look more guilty. I was trapped. Any move I made would be reframed as an attack. Any word I said would be evidence of my hostility. Silence made me look guilty, but speaking made me look dangerous. I sat at my desk staring at my computer screen, not working, just thinking. I needed to do something different. Fighting back was classified as attacking her. Providing evidence made me look like I was victimizing her further. Staying quiet let her narrative become the official truth. The normal rules didn't apply here, so I decided to do the opposite. I spent 2 hours that night writing an email to Juliet, deleted it 3 times, started over. I needed the tone to be perfect, sincere but not desperate, apologetic but not admitting guilt. Subject line, I want to do better. The email said I was genuinely sorry that my actions had made her uncomfortable. I recognized that I hadn't fully understood how the incident affected her. I wanted to be better, to do better. I asked her to let me know what specific actions I should avoid, what boundaries I should maintain, anything that would help her feel safer in the workplace. I took full responsibility for not recognizing how my behavior was impacting her. It was sincere, apologetic, exactly what HR would want to see if they read it. I copied Denise on it and hit send before I could second-guess myself. Juliet responded the next day. Her email was 3 paragraphs long. She thanked me for reaching out. She said healing was a process, and she appreciated my willingness to listen. She was glad I was finally taking accountability. Then she described the Heimlich. She said she remembered exactly where my fingers were positioned. She could still feel the pressure points on her abdomen, the specific places my hands pressed. She said she could feel my breath on her neck, warm and steady. She said I'd whispered, "I've got you," right before the last thrust, and the way I said it made her skin crawl. She remembered my chest against her back, the way my body pressed into hers, how it felt deliberate, controlled, not panicked, like someone trying to save a life. I read the email twice, then a 3rd time. The incident lasted 12 seconds, maybe less. She was violently choking, oxygen deprived, hands clawing at her throat, face purple. People were screaming. And she remembered my breathing rhythm, the exact placement of my fingers, the specific words I whispered. I sat back in my chair and smiled for the first time in weeks. She'd overextended. I started building the timeline that night, printed out every document. The original complaint from 2 months ago where the language was vague and emotional. Inappropriate contact. Too close. Made me feel unsafe. No specifics, no details, just feelings. Then the second complaint from 3 weeks ago. More specific now. I was standing near her before the choking started. The Heimlich felt premeditated, but still no sensory details. Then this email. Full detail. Breathing. Whispers. Specific finger placement. Exact words I supposedly said. The story was evolving, growing. She was adding details that couldn't possibly exist. I made copies of everything, put it all in a folder, organized it chronologically so the evolution was obvious. I highlighted the contradictions, the impossible details, the things that couldn't be remembered by someone who was choking. Then I requested an emergency meeting with HR and upper management. Denise tried to push back, said it wasn't necessary, that we should let the investigation proceed normally. I told her I had new evidence that needed to be reviewed immediately. She scheduled it for Wednesday afternoon. I walked into the conference room and Denise, Phil, and Janet from corporate were already there. Janet flew in from the San Diego office, which told me this was serious enough that people were paying attention. I handed out the folders, didn't say anything, just let them open them and start reading. "I'd like to walk you through the evolution of Juliet's accusations," I said once they'd all looked at the first page. I took them through it step by step. The original complaint, the language, the lack of specifics, then the revised statement 3 weeks later, how details started appearing, then the email from yesterday, how she described a 12-second emergency with the sensory detail of a movie scene. "Memory doesn't work like this," I said. Trauma doesn't add clarity to details that never happened. If anything, trauma makes memories less detailed, more fragmented. She's not remembering more clearly. She's inventing details that support a narrative. Janet from corporate was reading the email, her eyebrows pulling together. She looked up at Denise. "Did you see this before today?" "I was copied on it," Denise said. "And you didn't think the level of detail was unusual?" Denise shifted in her seat. "Trauma survivors often—" "She was choking," Janet interrupted. "Violently choking. How is she aware of whispered words?" Nobody said anything. Janet looked at Phil. "Get Juliet in here." Phil made the call. 5 minutes later, Juliet walked in. She looked confused, worried. She sat down across from me and wouldn't make eye contact. "Juliet," Janet said. She had the email in front of her. "Can you walk us through how you remember these specific details from the incident?" Juliet's face was already flushed. "When you experience trauma, your brain goes into hyperfocus. You remember things you didn't even know you noticed at the time." "I understand trauma responses," Janet said. Her voice was neutral, professional. "I'm asking specifically about the logistics. You were choking. We have 8 witness statements confirming that you were in severe distress. How were you aware of whispered words?" "I just remember it," Juliet said. "Trauma makes you remember things." "What exactly did he whisper?" Phil asked. "I've got you." She said it without hesitation. "Certain. And you're sure those were his exact words?" "Yes." Janet wrote something down. "What else do you remember?" "His hands, where they were, the pressure." "Can you describe the pressure?" Juliet demonstrated on herself, placing her hands on her own abdomen. "Here and here, firm, deliberate. That's standard Heimlich positioning," I said quietly. "It didn't feel standard," Juliet shot back. "Okay," Janet said. "Let's look at these photos." She slid the Instagram screenshots across the table. "This is 48 hours after the incident. You're touching him, smiling. Your arm is around him." "I explained that already," Juliet said. Her voice was getting higher. "I was in shock, confused. I didn't understand what he'd done." "What did he do?" The office manager said it so quietly I almost didn't hear him. The room went still. "What?" Juliet said. "You keep saying what he did. What exactly did he do?" Juliet looked around the table. Her eyes were wide. "He assaulted me during the Heimlich. He saved your life," the office manager said, "while assaulting me." "How does someone save your life and assault you at the same time?" Janet asked. Her pen was poised over her notepad. "He used it as cover," Juliet said. The words were coming faster now. "He engineered the situation." "Juliet," Phil's voice was sharp. "Did he make you choke on the chicken wing?" "No, but..." "So he didn't engineer anything. You were choking. He performed the Heimlich correctly, and you're alive because of it." Juliet's hands were shaking. She pressed them flat on the table. "You don't understand. None of you understand. Everyone keeps saying I should be grateful. Do you know how that feels?" Her voice cracked. "Everyone's celebrating him while I'm the one who almost died. I had to watch all of you treat him like a hero, while I couldn't even breathe without remembering his hands on me, his body against mine. Everyone acting like he's some kind of savior when I'm the one who almost died in front of everyone." She was crying now. Real tears, her whole body shaking. "I needed you to see him differently. I needed someone to understand that I was the one who suffered, not him. He got to be the hero. What did I get? I got to be the pathetic woman who choked on a chicken wing at lunch. The woman everyone stares at in the break room. The woman who can't even eat without people watching to make sure she doesn't die again." The room was completely silent, everyone staring at her. "I needed there to be a reason this happened to me," Juliet continued. She wasn't even looking at anyone anymore, just staring at the table, tears dripping onto the surface. "Something that made it not my fault, something that made it make sense. And if he was the problem, if he'd done something wrong, then maybe it wasn't just random. Maybe it wasn't just me being careless and stupid and almost dying in front of everyone." She looked up. Her face was red and wet. "I convinced myself it was real. The details, the closeness. I needed them to be real, so there was a reason. So it meant something instead of just being the worst moment of my life that everyone watched. And if I saved you all from him, if I protected other women from whatever he might do, then maybe owing him my life wouldn't feel so unbearable." She stopped. The words hung in the air. Her face drained of color as she looked around the table at all of us staring at her, at Phil with his mouth slightly open, at Denise with her pen frozen over her notepad, at Janet with her arms crossed, at me, silent, watching. "I didn't mean," Juliet started. Her voice was barely a whisper now, but there was nothing to say after that. No way to take it back. No way to reframe what she'd just admitted. She'd confessed to everything, to fabricating the details, to coaching herself to believe a false narrative, to weaponizing the incident to avoid her own embarrassment. She'd done it in front of 3 members of management and the head of HR. I said nothing, just sat there watching her realize what she'd done, watching her understand that she'd destroyed herself with her own words. The silence stretched out. 10 seconds. 20. Nobody moved. Denise looked at Janet. Janet looked at Phil. Phil looked down at his hands. Nobody was looking at me. Finally, Denise spoke. Her voice was quiet, careful. "Juliet, I think you should collect your things." Juliet just sat there, frozen, staring at the table like if she stayed still enough, the last 5 minutes would rewind and she could take it all back. I stood up. My chair scraped against the floor. Juliet flinched at the sound but didn't look at me. I walked out while she was still sitting there, tears streaming down her face, realizing that her need to not feel pathetic had burned down her entire career and nearly destroyed mine. Some people would rather burn down your life than say thank you.